on behalf of CII, I'm happy to inform that we had a pre-budget meeting with the Finance Minister, Smt Nirmala Sitharaman, along with her colleagues from the Finance Ministry. I'm happy to share the important recommendations we made from CII to the government. First of all, I must mention that the approach of the government through this entire COVID period has been extremely proactive, and the government and the policymakers have made changes appropriate to the requirements of the economy as well as to the COVID crisis itself. And in that context, as CII, we keep in mind the current challenging fiscal situation in the aftermath of COVID in our recommendations. Our recommendations are essentially in two parts. We have submitted a detailed record to the finance minister, but in terms of the gist of the recommendations, part one is policy recommendations and part two is some specific recommendations regarding taxation. In terms of the policy recommendations, the first of them is on fiscal management. We recommend deficit management from a 3-year perspective starting FY22. Yes, the deficits have been at a heightened level for the year March 2021 because of the COVID stress situation. Therefore, a reduction in fiscal deficit as the economy bounces back in 2022 is important, but the reduction of total deficit back to levels of between 3 to 4% at the center can happen over a 3-year period. We have also recommended to the finance minister that this is a time for us to dramatically provide off-balance sheet expenditures and financing as a part of the full-fledged budget itself. The finance minister had demonstrated transparency on this last year, and we would recommend strongly to take it forward so that the investors and analysts get a full transparent picture of the fiscal situation and shared pretty openly. This would also imply realistic revenue projections and realistic estimations on costs of various schemes. We further recommend an aggressive disinvestment scheme of both loss-making and profit-making public sector units, especially given the fact that capital markets are performing well. We also recommend to the government to explore sale of government land and public sector entities, including lease of surplus government land. So the first category is in the area of fiscal management. Second is financial sector reforms. For India to achieve its vision of a 5 trillion economy, it is important that we have a strong financial sector. We recommend bringing down the government stake in public sector banks other than the State Bank of India and the 4 large merged public sector banks. Other than these 5 banks, the other public sector banks must be allowed where public ownership goes below 50% through raising of new capital by these banks. We also recommend a strong development financial institution framework in 3 key sectors: in rural and agriculture through NABARD, in SME through SIDBI, and in infrastructure through a single holding structure which may use IIFCL or any other infrastructure financing institution within the government fold. We recommend 100% ownership of these institutions going forward and to drive the development finance agenda through these institutions. We also recommend an expeditious and efficient resolution process, which is critical to the health of the financial sector. A enhanced judicial capacity of the IBC is recommended. We also recommend creation of multiple bad banks through the alternative investment funds route, or AIFs, to really work on the bad loans process, and AIFs also to be allowed to buy loans. We also recommend creation of a market intelligence unit in the Ministry of Finance, as also with the financial sector regulators, to pick up early signs of financial distress and fraud. Time has come for early preventive measures rather than responding after the situation has developed. We are also of the belief that a strong financial sector development council under the leadership of the finance minister, with seamless coordination with the different regulatory bodies, would be the right step going forward. Third, government focus on reviving demand and boosting the productivity of the economy. There are various sectors which need focus. At CII, we suggest prioritizing expenditure in 3 specific sectors: healthcare, infrastructure, and sustainability. These are the 3 sectors where we need to invest more as a percentage of GDP, and we must do, as a country and as a government, the maximum allocation of resources in these 3 sectors on a priority basis. 4, private investment. While there are early signs of private investment returning, we need to sustain this. We need to ensure stability of long-term interest rates at current levels. The RBI has done a phenomenal job of managing the monetary policy and the interest rate situation. However, there are concerns of inflation which could affect the long-term bond yields, and these will be needed to be addressed if industry is going to come forward and make new investments. Hence, a stable long-term interest rate situation is crucial for private investments. We also need a stable tax regime, and last but extremely important is sanctity of contracts for governments, quasi-governments, and for state governments to honor as private industry makes investments into projects for the future. The 5th policy point is the area of job creation. Time has come for really focusing on employment as the key engine for supporting India's economic recovery and also ensuring that livelihoods are protected. One of the measures we recommend is a strong continuing focus on Section 80JJAA, which allows for 30% deduction for employees for salary up to 25,000 rupees per month. We recommend this be raised to a cap of rupees 50,000 per month. Direct tax recommendations, our view is not to have significant deductions and exemptions in a year where the fiscal situation is challenging, but rather focus on greater clarity in law, simplification of procedures, and reduction of litigation. We recommend extension of Vivad Se Vishwas scheme till December 31, 2021. On assessment, litigation, and demand, we must set timelines for disposal of appeals by Commissioner Appeals and timelines to be set for dispute resolution mechanism. We may want to consider restricting the number of adjournments by either party to say 2. We also recommend increase of monetary thresholds for departments to appeal. For example, up to rupees 1 crore for tribunals, there should be no appeals to go to tribunals. Similarly, 2 crores and below should not be referred to high courts, and 5 crores could be the threshold for Supreme Court. These are some of the important changes towards ease of doing business and ease of living as we go forward. On the indirect taxation side, we also recommend over a 3-year period, a competitive import tariff situation consistent with an Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is engaged with the world and is competitive. Therefore, we recommend to start with 3 slabs. one slab for raw materials, another slab for intermediates, and another slab for final products. The gaps between the different slabs should not be very wide, and ultimately over time, we should narrow these three slabs down to one or two. I am a believer that time has come for India to redefine its destiny in the community of nations, particularly to a dramatic and a profound improvement in the Indian economy in the years to come. And I therefore wish the Prime Minister and his colleagues and the Finance Minister all the best as they plan for the budget 2021-22.